It's Friday, January 23rd. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, a salute to Them Days magazine. It's been around for more than 50 years now. We will talk about the history, heritage, its importance to Labrador, and its importance to the province. All right, and folks, as you listen today, you will get, if you want, to either email, so you can call us if you've got a connection or a memory with Them Days magazine. I'm thinking mainly of you great Labrador listeners, but for folks on the island too, if you spent time and you've had connections with it, memories around it, you want to talk about its importance, the phone lines are open through the show, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. You can text us, 709-327-8206, email thesignal@cbc.ca. We've got a couple of Them Days magazines to give away, including the coveted 50th anniversary one that came out in the fall. Editor-in-Chief Aimee Chaulk, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, so that's Aimee. Aimee's here, and then we got Sam Saunders on the line and Happy Valley Goose Bay in the studio. Edward Blake Rudkowski is on the line. Sam Saunders is here with me in studio, and Bruce Bourque is here in studio. Edward, how are things in Happy Valley Goose Bay?
It's darn freezing up here, my friend, but luckily I'm glad we're here to talk about things which are a little warmer to our hearts, and that's of course Them Days.
Yeah, so when you say freezing, I'm a townie, so for freezing for me is not freezing. What's freezing for you in Happy Valley Goose Bay?
Well, I think the first number of the temperature starts with a 3, and it's not on the plus side of things. So
okay.
It's getting pretty nippy.
Yeah, that actually just made me feel cold just thinking about that. I'm gonna have to get a blanket. So we're gonna be chatting now shortly. So Edward, just sit tight for a second. I'll say hi to folks here in front of me, and but at the same time, do feel free to chime in anytime you want through the course of the hour as this goes. Sam, how you doing?
Fine, thank you. I'm doing very good. I'm pleased to be here. I can pass on some Them Days messages to the listeners on the show.
Excellent. And Bruce Bourque, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
How's it? So, retired from CBC, but no matter how far you go, we find ways to pull you back in.
Indeed. Indeed.
Let's start with Aimee. Give us, for anyone who may not know about Them Days magazine, just give us the opening spiel of what it is.
So we're an oral history quarterly, all about Labrador history, Labrador heritage, Labrador cultures. It comes out 4 times a year, 64 pages, black and white. It has looked basically the same since the 1970s. It hasn't changed a whole lot. A little bit has, just tweaked a little. But if you remember it from 50 years ago, it probably is fairly similar to what you remember even today.
How long have you been with Them Days?
Since 2008.
What was it like kind of starting in 2008? Something that this cultural institution for Labrador, and you're like, okay, here we go. I'm going to start working for Them Days.
Well, it was a really big deal for me because I grew up with Them Days in the house. It has been around longer than my whole life, so I don't know a reality without Them Days, So when I was young, we moved around a lot, but Them Days was always there. Our connection to Labrador was always there. And, when I was in university, I used it to write papers for different courses. It was always just something I knew about. And so when I applied for the job, I really did not think I would get it. It was like, wow, this is like a really big deal. And in fact, I did not get the job. But I still moved back to Goose Bay all the same and started working at the newspaper. And then the job came up again, and I actually got it that time. But so it was a very big deal for me as somebody who grew up knowing the significance of Them Days, as a Labradorian. So I still remember walking into the office the first time, and it was just like, I don't know, a sense of wonder for me. And then I got to know the archives, and we've got so much in the archives. And then yeah, I kind of just had to jump right into it. So it's been amazing. Like coming back to Labrador as a young person and getting to learn about my own history, my family's history. I mean, I found all kinds of photos of my family members in the archives. I met and interviewed people who could tell me about my great-great-grandparents.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I know, right? So
I mean, that's great.
yeah. So it was really such a wonderful experience, and it does continue to be. And the past couple of years, I've been working with people like Bruce who were there right at the very beginning. So it's like really amazing to have that all happen.
Bruce, talk to us about the very beginning.
The long story or the short story?
I mean, we got a good 50 minutes left, so you choose your own adventure.
Okay. So the Labrador Heritage Society was formed in 1973. Joe Gowdy as president, and I was working in Goose Bay at the time, and I was a history nut since I was in diapers, so I joined. Yeah. And at the early meetings, we were talking about mandate and objectives and funding and projects and all that sort of startup stuff. And we talked about archives, we talked about a museum, we talked about stuff like that. And those are big projects, and they needed money, and it took time, and so on. So eventually, we homed in on a history book because everybody wanted school kids in Labrador to be able to learn about their own history, which makes sense. But then as we talked it over, we thought, who would research it? Who would write it? How long would it take? How much would it cost? What if the Department of Education said, no, we're not interested? So we thought, history book? No, probably not. And if it was a big hardcover, 300 or 400 page history book, how much would it cost? Nobody in Labrador would be able to afford it except for a few people, and we were concerned about the average person.
Yeah.
So we gave up on the idea of the history book. And all those meetings that we had, at the end of the meeting, it would always end up with there were a lot of old people at the, seniors at the meetings. And every meeting ended with one of those seniors talking about the old days, what life was like when they were growing up. And these were people who grew up in the 10, 20, 30, trapping culture and all that sort of thing. And we were sitting around the table enthralled, entranced, rapt, listening to these stories. Good storytellers and good stories. And at some point, we just kind of looked at each other and said, you know what? That's what we need to preserve, is the people's stories. And, if you compare a, often dry history book full of facts and figures and born, married, died, and all that sort of thing, if you compare that to people telling their own stories in their own words, there is no comparison. There's nothing more interesting than a person telling their story. And so we said, maybe a periodical, a magazine. And so should it be once a year? No, God, no. Once a month? Too much work. And we settled on a quarterly. And then the same questions came up. How do we do it? How do we go about it? We haven't got a clue. And fortunately, I had a clue because I had been involved in, when I was here at Memorial, I was involved in publishing pamphlets and student directories, and yearbooks, and blah, blah, blah. So I had a connection with Don Morgan of Robinson Blackmore. Some people will remember Robinson Blackmore printing and publishing.
I remember the name.
They used to print the Daily News, but they're also a publisher. So I said, I know how to do it. So I got in touch with Don Morgan, and we talked and picked a format and a size, 6x9, stapled in the middle, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, we can do it for 66 cents each if you give us camera-ready pages. And camera-ready pages meant, this was long before desktop publishing. It was long before computers. The electric typewriter at that time was considered a technological marvel. And so what was meant by camera-ready work was we had to produce every page to the exact size with pictures pasted in and ads pasted in, page number, like the ad had to be exactly as we wanted it printed. and they would just take a picture, make a plate, and print it. So that was the cheapest way we could do it. So we said, okay, that's what we'll do. And so we hired Doris Saunders, the late, great Doris Saunders, for 3 months to do the first edition, because we didn't know if we could pull it off. And we wanted to have pictures. And I was working at CFLA TV with Nigel Markham, well-known local videographer. And Nigel, fortunately, was an experienced darkroom technician. He could print pictures. And so we had to map out every page. There was 54 in the first edition. We had to map out every page, plan it, and Doris would type out the text and leave a space, say in the top right, for an agreed-upon, say, 2 by 3 inch picture. And she would leave a space at the bottom for an agreed-upon ad. That might be a quarter page, a half page, whatever. And I knocked on doors, sold ads, and laid out the ads using, again, the paste-up method, paste in a logo, paste in an illustration. And the lettering was done with Letraset, which you got to be over 70 to know what Letraset was, but it was letter by letter done by hand, not crooked or anything.
I remember, like I have a vague memory of seeing that type of a thing, like on video at some point when I was growing up. But yeah, like and this is 50. Like the world has changed so much in 50 years. So but keep going.
It was an old school lettering technology, and believe me, that's an insult to the word technology. So anyway, Doris typed out the pages. Nigel printed the pictures to an agreed upon size. I laid out the ads to an agreed upon size, and we did that 54 times. Huh. And we were at it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then we mailed off the only copy of those 54 pages, because photocopiers were in diapers as well at the time. And so we mailed those off by snail mail to St. John's. And we held our breath for 2-3 weeks. And then the boxes came. And we opened up the box and looked at it, and by God, it looked good. Professional even, right? And we didn't high-five because the high-five hadn't been invented yet. But we hugged and we smiled, and it was like Christmas morning. Wow. And that was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And if my math is correct, since then, Them Days has published 10,000 pages of Labrador history.
10,000 pages of history.
10,000 pages. And a history book would only have had 400 or 500, so we won.
Yeah, well, ongoing conversations about history and culture and everything that it means for folks in Labrador. So yeah, way better than one history book.
Yeah.
This ongoing living being. Sam, what about yourself for your involvement?
Yeah, I'm right now. I'm a director of the Them Days. I've been for the last 4 years, going on 5. And Aunt Doris, she's my aunt, and she told me about some stuff what Bruce just mentioned.
Yeah.
And there's no question about what Bruce will tell you is the truth. I can remember quite clearly I asked her the question, how did Them Days name come about?
Yeah.
She said, Sam, we got our cassette recorder, we went and interviewed people, we come back, we had to transcribe them all, and that took a lot of time. He said, during every transcribe, one word always come up, Them Days, Them Days. So Them Days came about that way. And not only that, it's like Bruce said, it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
If you want to find out anything about Labrador in the past, Them Days is the first stop. And it's been an awesome, we came a long way, and we're looking to the future to go further again. But I must say, I thoroughly enjoy reading that. From my experience, is when I read a magazine or any kind of article, I'm there in the article with the person's.
Yeah.
And I've experienced what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
And I'm there, and they're telling the story to me, and I'm reading it, and it's quite the oral history is the way you can do that. And through my volunteer work now, I've seen some of the archives, and we got a lot of photos there, and we got an awful lot, more than, it's a lot, I must say. You can be a full-time job for whoever's doing archives. There's no doubt about it. And, if we have more funding, I suppose, we can add to that. And our vision is to keep on going, and we will keep on pursuing.
There's something really special about oral history, right? People who are talking about what they lived or are living in their own words, and for that to be, whether you're listening to it in audio, watching a video, or reading about it in something like Them Days magazine, it's the real people, right? Not the folks who are the ones who, Bruce, would be in the history books, right? These are the real people who have lived it, and you get such a flavor and taste of life and the lives lived and the lives people are living. Edward, who's on the line in Happy Valley Goose Bay, what are your, talk to us about your connections to Them Days, because you're the chair right now too, right?
I've been the chair for the last number of years. Yeah, that's right. One thing I'd like to sort of clarify, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who may be new to Them Days. People outside Labrador may not be as familiar with what we do as people here in Happy Valley Goose Bay. But to say Them Days magazine is a bit of a misnomer, because it's only one aspect of what we do.
Yes, of course.
The magazine, of course, is our public face. That's how people know us. That's how most people. That's what their experience with us is. However, as both Sam and Aimee have alluded to, we also operate in archives where we're a storehouse of photos. We're a storehouse of publications. We're a storehouse of things which are irreplaceable. So the magazine is the public face, but behind the scenes, we also maintain, operate, and safeguard in archives, and that also falls under the purview of the mandate of Them Days. In addition to that, we whenever possible, we also participate in cultural events here in Labrador. We help facilitate events. We help plan them. We have some things at our own building, for example, and we're in the midst of some renovations which are going to enable us to do even more of those sorts of things. So the Them Days is broader than the magazine, and the magazine is the public face, but there is a lot going on behind the scenes. We are a cultural storehouse. We are a cultural safeguarder, and that's so that just so people get a more true sense of what we're about. I thought it was important to clarify that.
Big time.
Yeah, but if we could talk about my own sort of personal experience, my grandfather, like many people from Upper Lake Melville, my grandfather started on the trap line when he was a teenager. Unfortunately, he left us quite some time ago, roughly 30 years ago. And there's not a week that goes by when I said, man, I wish I asked him this. I wish I asked him that. Where was your first tilt? Where was what was your favorite food on the trap line? What was your Sunday tradition? How did you skin that particular animal? Whatever it might be. I have these ongoing questions which I never recorded, which I never wrote down, which I never, had I guess, I don't know, the foresight to write those things down. And
That's very
I am
common.
but one of thousands of people like in Labrador who would have a similar experience. And Them Days gives people that opportunity to reflect, to know more about where they come from, who they are, and what the experience of their ancestors was. And it's so important. I went to a presentation a number of years ago. And the presentation was given by a gentleman who was a professor at the University of Minnesota. And he was an Ojibwe professor, and he talked about the Ojibwe word Nin, I believe it's spelled N-I-I-N. And he explained to the audience, which I was a member of, he explained to the audience that Nin means me. But in Ojibwe, it has a greater context. Nin means I am a part of all those who came before me. Me, Edward, I'm a piece of my mother, Clarice. I'm a piece of my grandfather, Cecil. I'm a piece of my grandmother, Sylvia. And we all are that. And this is the gift that Them Days gives people. It helps them understand who they are, what their cultural background is, and helps them, I think, stay grounded. And it's the work that has been done over the past 5 decades is invaluable. And I don't think there's anybody else in the province, and perhaps not even in Canada, doing similar work. And we're just really, I'm blessed and proud to be a part of hanging on to some of those stories and anecdotes and cultural traditions and all those sort of things that Them Days is tasked with safeguarding before they disappear forever into the ether, and that's how I think about things.
We had Dave Padden and a bunch of the Padden family on the other week, and one of the things that Dave mentioned was just saying, like, folks, you got people in your lives with phones nowadays. You can record stuff, record voices, keep it. It was this bit of advice he gave, right? Like, go out there, record your relatives, record people, so you have those stories. And also, when you have an organization like Them Days Inc. Doing things like what you do each month, like your archives, that is, I mean, it's such a gift for future Labradorians. Edward, I do want to ask, it takes funding to do this stuff. Right, and so the series, we're having a really good cultural, historic conversation here, and also though, where are things at with funding, so that Them Days can keep going?
Well, I'm really glad you asked, because at the end of the day, we're an enterprise, and we have to be able to pay our bills, and so we employ 2 full-time employees. We maintain a building, part of which is our archives. We have to clear our snow, we have to pay our rent, we have to keep the lights on, we have to pay our internet bill. So we exist primarily through a funding grant from the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. So we receive annually a $50,000 grant from TCAR, Tourism, Culture and Recreation, Department of Tourism, Culture and Recreation. $50,000 is what we receive from those folks in order to operate our enterprise.
When was the last time that was upgraded?
Boy, now we're getting into something different. As far as we know, it's been frozen since at least 2005. It probably was frozen even before that, but that's as far as we can verify. So
I'm not
that
big
means,
on math, but I mean, there's been just a little bit of inflation since then.
Well, what we've been expected to do is to pay 2026 expenses with $2,005.
Right.
And that's our reality. And every year, the amount that we can do with $50,000 is less and less and less.
Yeah.
So, the challenge has been is that and the paradox is that everyone recognizes the work that Them Days does. Everyone recognizes that this is a valuable institution. Everyone recognized that if Them Days had not been there, how much of these stories and anecdotes and traditions and things would have been just vaporized. As people left this world, they would have taken those stories and anecdotes with them to be lost forever. So everyone says, man, you guys are doing great work. It's fantastic. But show us some love,
to quote Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire, "Show me the money," right? Like, it's been since 2005. You've had MHAs of all provincial party color in Labrador. Are they not advocating for you, trying to get you more money for something that's a cultural institution?
Well, that's okay. I'm going to be fair. Okay, so I'm going to show two particular things which have happened recently. So under the previous Liberal administration, there was a one-time grant of $50,000 through Lisa Dempster and her department, and we really appreciate that, of course. And just recently, and I'm talking December month, we received, Leela Evans was able to secure us a one-time grant of $25,000. So we're very appreciative of those efforts, right? I can't sit here and say, hey, man, no one gives us any help, because that has happened. However, that's not the ask. The ask has always been, help us increase our core funding. Our core funding is what we need to strategize against, to plan against, to hire against. We need certainty of income, right? So that we can continue to do the work that we do. And when we're paying 2 employees, operating a building, paying all of our expenses with $50,000 a year. Now, Adam, you said you're not good in math, but you don't need a PhD to recognize that doesn't add up. Okay,
I've been slowly coming to that conclusion there as you've been talking.
And don't be offended. No slight intended. I'm sure you're great at many other things, but anyway. So that's the ask. I recently wrote to Leila Evans, who has been very supportive, by the way, and to ask that our core funding grant be increased to a level which will be sustainable. About 3 years ago, I asked our treasurer, Linda Mugford, who does fantastic work for us as well, to look at, $50,000 coming in, what's going out, and what's the difference between those two numbers. And she came up with a number of roughly $75,000. So every year, at the start of every year, we're down $75,000.
Yeah.
We're out. So that means a lot of our staff time and board time has to be spent in funding projects, seeking donations, whatever the case may be. Because if we don't find that $75,000, Them Days is not going to be around. Plain and simple. There's no sugarcoating it. It's not puff and blow. It's the reality of our circumstance. So, when the work that Aimee and Sam talked about and Bruce talked about stops when we have to divert resources towards fundraising activities. I'm hoping that the current administration is able to give us some assistance. As I mentioned before, they already have given us a one-time grant. But what we really need is sustainable increase in our core funding, which will ensure that Them Days has lasted 50 years, which will ensure that we last for another 50. That's the challenge that we have. That's the challenge that the board has, and that's the heaviness that I feel as chair of Them Days.
Thanks for. I was hoping to get that explanation, and I appreciate it. You're listening to The Signal. I'm Adam Walsh. Today on the show, we are talking about a cultural institution for Labrador, Them Days, right? Magazine, archive. A massive part of over 5 decades now, 50 years and change, counting, being part of the cultural fabric of Labrador. We've got a couple issues to give away, including the 50th anniversary issue from the fall. If you'd like to have a package of Them Days, email us, thesignal@cbc.ca. You can text us 709-327-8206. And if you've got a connection to the magazine, or if you dug through the archives, if there's something that you're connected to for Them Days, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Aimee Chaulk, editor. I'm just curious, when it comes to each quarter, right? You're putting this, what's the process? What's the conversation like for you to be like, here we go, we're going to do another one. Here's the plan. How does that work?
So most Them Days have been sort of general issues through the years, with the exception of our bigger special issues, like, for example, the 1970s one. But a couple of years ago, I said, you know what? It's a bit easier sometimes when the smaller issues are also themed. Sometimes it's a little bit easier. Yeah. Well, you probably know this too, right? When you call up somebody with an idea in mind, and an idea that people then can point you to other people. So,
I do that. That's a daily thing. I'm like, do you have anyone else to recommend? And people, they're like, yes, maybe. So yeah, I get it.
Exactly, right? So it's easier when you have a bit of a topic or a theme. So in the past few years, it's been 2 themed issues a year and 2 general issues a year. And then, with the themed issue, it can be a little bit easier to say, I'm looking for stories about caribou or that sort of thing. And then, in the meantime, I might be getting a few general stories coming in. I might talk with somebody. There's a really good story here that will just fit in any issue. And so my workflow has been 2 themed issues, 2 general issues, and that kind of works, I hunt around for people and I ask them to tell me stories. Sometimes I'm lucky and they say yes. Yeah. And then, transcribe them, which has been a little bit easier because Bruce is back to volunteering with Them Days and transcribing after, a few years away, 50 years away. And so then I turn them into stories and I do the layout, and we do pretty much everything except the printing itself in-house.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at page 39 here from volume 49, number 3, 2025.
And subscribers don't even have that issue in their mailboxes yet. That is brand new.
That's why it feels so warm still.
You can smell the ink.
What?
You can smell the ink.
Right? Yeah, you can. This is by Max Blake, Happy Valley Goose Bay 2025. When I was young, there were no crows in Labrador, only tuligak, raven. Raven was a solitary bird that was only seen as a single bird or at times two birds. If you saw three together, you would make a cross with your fingers to cross out the third bird because three together was bad luck. Raven is bigger than the crow. The crows fly in groups called a murder of crows. They attack, tulugate, and probably kill young ravens. And then it goes on from there. But on this page as well, you've got a picture, or on the other page, you've got who, what, when, where, why, pictures of families, pictures of folks in them days. These are tastes of just, it's people writing, it's pictures, it's history, it's culture, oral stories. You know, it's just really lovely. What about for you guys here in studio? Sam, just your thoughts on things that have connected you, because you gave the overall, but what points of stories or reading have you connected to with Them Days magazine and the archives and everything else?
Okay, yeah, I've contributed quite a few stories to Them Days, and there's no doubt. I was one of the last trappers out of Gullone and Sandy Island Lake, because my job, I worked 6 months working with as a fisheries officer and 6 months off. And when my time is off, I spent trapping. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and it was a way to get extra income, and I gathered a lot of stories from a lot of other people down on the river, and that kind of stuff. I put some of that into Them Days, and also a few other stories that people told me. So it's a secondhand information, but still it's true information.
Yeah.
And it's been good, and Them Days has a history of doing that, and reminds me of. Going back a little bit in my mind was that 2 years ago, Them Days got a recognition from this province as a cultural magazine, and it was well received by the premier at the time, and it was nice to be recognized by the province for what we're doing, and I'm not hoping it will survive, no question about that. Now, go back to stories. I've been lucky that I've been around a lot of older people without growing up, so I know a little more past my own generation people, and that kind of stories connect with me, and I spent a lot of time fishing in my career, and do hunting on the land, and people told me stories that normally they would never tell anybody else. And for my travels, I traveled right from Nain, from Cape Trinity, right down to the border, and most places where I go, they always tell stories. Now, a lot of people didn't know about Them Days at the time, but since then, it's been noticeable in the articles that comes into Them Days. People are more aware of it, and Aimee got a big job to juggle all those stories into. There's no doubt about it, and I fully appreciate everything she does.
We've got a caller on the line calling from St. John's. Is it Kira? Hello?
Hi, it's Tara.
Kara. Hey, how you doing?
Good, how about you?
Good. So your thoughts on Them Days?
Yeah, I was just calling in. I'm on my lunch break, but I did a work term at Them Days in 2016. Aimee probably remembers me.
She's nodding.
I sure did. Hey, Tara.
But yeah, no, I just wanted to call in and say that Them Days is an incredible resource for the province as a whole. I grew up in St. John's, and so when I was doing my master's of folklore at MUN, I did 2 work terms, and my first work term was in St. John's, but my second work term, I had the opportunity to live in Happy Valley Goose Bay for 4 months. And the project that I was working on with Them Days included like traveling to different parts of Labrador. So during that 4 months, I went to Nain, I went to Cartwright, I went to Natwashish, like areas around Happy Valley Goose Bay, but it was all to do archival work. And so the work that they do, like the magazine itself is well known around Labrador, and it is an incredible resource. Any shop that I went into in Happy Valley Goose Bay had Them Days there, of course. But the archival work that they do as well is incredible. The project that I was on was called, well, there's a very long name for the grant proposal, but we shortened it for social media to just ID Them Days. And so at that point, there was approximately 15,000 unidentified photographs. And so the reason that I was traveling to all those places was just to help identify some of those photos. So going into communities directly and getting people to identify those photographs and possibly do interviews with folks when we were there. But yeah, no, I just wanted to call in and say Them Days is incredible. And I'm sure a bit more money and a bit more resources would allow them to do a lot more work. And they do incredible work.
Thanks so much for the call. And your name is also now in for the draw for the magazine package at the end of the show.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for calling, Tara.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tara. And I just want to say the project that Tara worked on was actually shortlisted for the Governor General's Award for History in Community Programming.
So not bad.
Yeah.
Did an okay job.
Yeah. She did an excellent job. And
Tara's fantastic for that work.
Yeah, it made a great impact. And I'll always remember the first day she showed up at the office because she stayed at the college residence in Happy Valley, which is about maybe close to 2 kilometers away from our office. However, at the time, Google Maps had misplaced where our office was.
Imagine.
I know, right? And they had put it where Mary Brown's is, which is directly across Hamilton River Road from the college. So when she arrived, she thought, oh, I'm going to be so close to work. And she, in fact, found out in the first week of January, a very, very cold first week of January, that it was, in fact, almost 2 kilometers away. And when I got to the office, she was on the doorstep already, and her eyelashes were completely frosted over, and she looked so cold. But she, you know what, she stayed for more months, so I'm glad she didn't let that first day scare her away.
My first time in Happy Valley Goose Bay, I arrived by ship, and we were going up to the base, and I was like, how far could it be? I'm just going to walk. And it was a lot longer than it was summertime, and it was a long walk. I think I'm still walking in some respects with that one. Here's an email from Mike. I'd love to get the anniversary issue. I think Them Days, as well as the quarterly, Them Days is one of the great under-recognized cultural historical resources in this province. I have a number of issues collected over my various trips and sojourns to Labrador. One of my all-time favorite photos is the mailman with a patch over one eye taken about 100 years ago in Makovic. Mike, thanks for that. Yeah, but same thing from Tara to Mike. You're just hearing some of this attachment, obviously, to everything, the institution that is Them Days. Bruce, yourself, you're transcribing now again. What's it like to reconnect with these stories and kind of like to hear folks in their words and then to be part of that system?
Well, I've been reading Them Days, pretty much
Non-stop,
throughout.
yeah.
But it is lovely to reconnect, and trapping stories are my favorite ones, and I'm not sure why, but I think, like I remember when we were sitting around the table in the first, the very first few days, and a lot of the stories that were told around the table were about trapping. And there's something about trapping that to me has always been like, it's like the soul of Labrador. That's how I think of it. That sounds kind of schmaltzy. But I think that trapping is a really, really essential part of the culture. I mean, there's not much trapping that goes on now. But, if you said, I got a story about trapping, nobody would say, oh, that's it, I'm out.
Yeah.
And one thing I might mention, by the way, totally unrelated, is one of the things that we'd like to do, which I've been working on with no success whatsoever, is to get distributors on the island, because even though this is about Labrador, Labrador's an essential part of
Well, yeah, it's
the
about
province.
time some stuff comes down, because there's been so much of the island forced for culture into Labrador over the years of talking. Like, let's have some stuff and experience the other direction because of the rich history and culture.
And there might be people on the island, Newfoundlanders, who have no connection with Labrador, but are interested.
Interesting stories by,
Are interested in its history, And the only place where we distribute now is at the Rooms in St. John's. But we would love to get it into some other places.
There are a couple more places in Newfoundland. Powell's Supermarket around like Conception Bay North.
Oh,
They
fantastic.
do have it. And Plum Point Motel in Plum Point on the Great Northern Peninsula. But, St. John's is a very big city. There's a lot more places around the island.
There's
so
room
you're
for
right, Bruce.
expansion.
There is definitely room
There's
for
room
expansion.
for expansion, yes. And, anybody who has a magazine rack and with an empty space in it, Labrador'sThem Days.com.
Yeah.
If I could just
Yes,
add
please.
to that as well, boys. Shout out going to go to a fellow by the name of Tom Mugford. Tom Mugford works for the Department of Education. Originally from Cartwright, spent much time on the North Coast. But Tom Mugford was highly instrumental in getting Them Days magazine placed in all the high schools in the province. Now, that just started last year, and so in addition to the retailers, Them Days is now available in the high schools of the province.
Excellent.
Thanks to Tom Mugford, and so big shout out to him. And if I could also just another quick shout out before I forget, and it's so important because Them Days exists because of the passion and loyalty of our subscriber base and our supporters. Whenever we find ourselves in a pickle, or we're behind the eight ball, or if we need to raise some money in a short order, it's any sort of plea or any sort of ask from our supporter base gets quickly answered without exception. So, 50 years has happened largely because of the fact that hopefully we're doing a good job, and also because of the passion of our subscriber base. So, just wanted to get that out there, and also mention the work of Tom Mugford in getting our publication into the high schools of the province.
That's excellent. We have a piece of tape. I want to play the first little bit of it, Pike, so maybe about a minute, because I think this is a very nice exercise of having people kind of grasp the workflow and just how some of these great the oral history comes into Them Days, and then what happens with it. Aimee, can you set up the piece of tape that we have about Mr. Michelin?
Yeah, so this is from an interview that Doris Saunders and Judy McGraw did back in 1981 in Northwest River. Yeah. And it's a very dramatic story about Mr. Michelin talking about when he was about 8 years old, I think, and he had a near-death experience.
Okay,
So I can talk about it a little bit. I don't want to give it all away.
No, so don't give it away. So what we'll do is we'll listen to a minute of it, and then I'll have you kind of finish off with the grand reveal of the end of the story. But we'll play a minute of the tape.
I did one.
Eh?
I did one.
You were dead?
Yeah. You believe it?
How come you're here now?
What? I got life again.
How'd you do that?
What?
How did you do that?
Well, my Aunt Ruth and Uncle Joe and I had a fishing shop in River. And we were more at the end of it, wasn't very second day of snow on us when we went up. And it rained and moiled all day, and all the snow come off with black ice, moon. And we had about 5 barrels of trout last day between us. And we took 2 down on the Commissary. And Ruth and I were sleeping, and Joe was eating at along on the Commissary, and we all went in the ice. A mile above warm, the house. And they heard us bawling, and they come up with a Commissary with Melly and Emily and the old man. They got up there. Emily was going on her out with that much hand out, and they got her and pulled her out. Job just got up on the ice, and I was gone. No sign of me. So the nuns were around the horn everywhere, no sign of me. They give me up and went on home. And when they got a quarter mile down, Emily saw something in the moonshine right through the black ice. Looked like a grub blade floating along. And she cut a hole through with her key and wait till it dropped there, and she put her hand down and pulled up the grub blade with me. I had a little white duffel cap tied around my head. And when they pulled me up, I had one leg put and one boot on, they said. So I did. And they took me home. And they're working at Bud wasn't. Emily was, Ruth was coming around, but I wasn't. So the old man took me and put me out in the fort and left me out there for dead, stretched out on the floor. She was no more used to work with me, because I was dead. So grandmother, after Emily come around, Ruth come around now, she put me across the chair with my feet on the floor, one side and my head on the other side, and took the bar of the door out there, a wide bar of the door for going the door. And she said if I did, she left me across the backside, and if I did, it wouldn't hurt anyhow. And she come and she asked me as hard as she could. And she said I made the belly like kick and the water began running out my mouth right fast.
What did she say you did?
Eh?
What did she say you did?
She said if I were dead, and she asked me what I said,
Yeah.
it wouldn't hurt anyhow, I wouldn't feel it.
Oh, yeah.
But she said I might be like, might make me do something with water or something come out. And she come on both hands and left me on the backside. And she said I made the bitterly kick and the water began running out. And they worked and they come around. But the old man had me left out there 5 minutes then for dead.
Oh.
And Dr. Patton said, oh, we kept me alive. I was floating with my mouth up towards the ice.
Oh, yeah.
He said if I would turn the mouth down, I'd have been dead long time before that.
Yeah.
But between the ice and the water, that all with 1 inch a hill.
Yeah.
And if you're floating up by the ice, you'll keep reading.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I kept me alive. Yeah, me put out for dead now.
How old were you then?
Well,
How old were you then?
I was 9.
9 years old.
Yeah.
I said I'd play a minute. I
Could
just
you
wanted to play
swim?
the. Oh, 10 seconds left.
Oh, yeah.
You were able to swim.
I'll be already in water almost,
Yeah.
like a little dog.
I said I was going to play a minute, but it just, with Mr. Michelin there and the story, and this is when did you say it was 81? Like, when was this told? This piece of tape?
1981.
This was in 1981.
Yeah.
So I wanted that to kind of breathe existence into the story again and just leave it. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, there was no way you could turn that off.
I
I
was like,
think
this
we
is-
were
yeah, we're
all on
not.
tenterhooks listening.
And I just loved it. And I didn't realize it would end up being a Dr. Patton story as well, which
Yeah.
also kind of blew my mind as I was listening to it. So go ahead.
Yeah, so they were out ice fishing. They had 2 barrels of trout, and they were bringing them home on the Comatic, and he and Ruth were sleeping on, and then they went through the ice.
Yeah.
And so they were able to get the other one out really quickly, just grabbed her, but they could not find him. They were searching around, couldn't find him, and they kind of said, well, we can't look anymore. And they started to go home, back to where they were living in Traversman. And then they saw him through the ice because he had a little white duffel cap on, and got him up. And it didn't appear that he was breathing or anything. And they brought him home and tried to work on him a little bit, but he just did not come around. And then the grandmother said, well, let me have one go at him. And, if he truly is dead, this won't hurt him, but it's worth a try. So she put him over her lap with his backside in the air, his feet down on the end, his head down on the other, and she gave him a good whack on his backside. And the water actually came out of started coming out of his mouth, and he was saved. Thanks to his grandmother's willingness to give it one last shot.
Sam.
Yeah, Adam, I can relate to that. I fished in the same river years ago, and the water is black, and the snow was on it before, and it melted, and you might be on about maybe not 3 inches of ice. And that's you had to go further up the rapid. And the further you go up the rapid, the less ice there is. And down the mouth of the river would freeze up first. And like Aimee said, he was lucky he had the cap on, or else he would have been gone. But now that reminds me of I talked to Uncle John Mixon. I call him Uncle. He would tell me he spent 2 years away from the Ocean River trapping.
Yeah.
He was on the heights of land up past Labrador City. And he used to trap down Flower Lake. He did a lot of it there. And he did a lot of exploration for Greenwich. And he done one more. He done an exhibition with Coleridge. And he did another one in the 50s, I know. And he was probably one of the, I'd say, the top woodsmen in Labrador at the time. And in his era. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and if you're one of the top woodsmen in Labrador, globally you're at the top too, I'm imagining, right? For just ability. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I must say, I knew his son real well. He taught me a lot, and both of his sons, and they're exceptionally good woods people, and they good storytellers, and they're an excellent mind. And Uncle John told me many other stories.
Yeah. Bruce, any thoughts on just the tape, or just this just shows also the power of the archives.
Nobody checks out of a story like that.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says, "I'm leaving. This is boring," you know. And another one that comes to mind is the piece of his book that Dave Padden read when you had him on about his mother, the nurse. You know.
Yeah. Nurse Fortescue and Dr. Padden, right?
Yeah,
Out now anywhere
right.
you get your books.
Yeah. And I go back to that original meeting around the table in the valley in '74. Those stories are what needs to be preserved, and everybody's familiar with the idea of questions they wish they had asked their grandparents before they died.
Yeah.
But now they're gone, and I say again what I said before, that there is no substitute for a person telling their own story in their own words. Preferably before they die.
Yeah. Edward, any thoughts from you? We only have about 2 minutes left.
Well, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. I mean, everybody listening to that story was riveted, and that's what we do. We have thousands of stories like that, which we take from transcripts and which we record, and that we make sure that those stories don't disappear when these people leave us. And it just further highlights the importance of what we do. And I really hope that that we're around for another 50 years. That's what I'm committed to. But I want to give one. I know we're getting short on time, but I have to give one more shout out to one of Them Days' greatest supporters and a longtime volunteer. My mom, Clarice Blake Rudkowski, is 87 years old today, and I'm sure she's home listening
today.
To us.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday to Clarice, who was a long-term volunteer at Them Days, and she is the person that helps ignite my passion about what we do. So thanks to Mom, and happy birthday, Mom.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I love it. An email and a text as we're almost out of time here. One question was there, here's one. Lorena said, hi, just wondering if my memory serves me right, and there was a coloring book in them days, was there?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah?
And we did a reprint about 15 years ago. It's still available. You can find it on our website.
Okay, so yes to that. Here's another one. Enjoying your program today. I lived in Happy Valley Goose Bay and traveled to coastal communities in the mid-'70s. I remember well when them days began and got to know Dora Saunders. She was a very dear person who truly loved her Labrador. I miss my Them Days magazine. I only recently subscribed again. That 50-year special edition would be great to win. Karen Thistle. Karen, your name is in for the draw. And as I look at the time, final 3-word thought, Aimee, about the magazine.
Well, it's human, and the humanity of it, I think, is most important, especially these days when we don't know what to believe. But these are real stories from real people.
Thank you for that. Arlette Lazarenko did the draw. Karen Thistle, you did win. So Arlette's going to get in touch with you, and the package will be sent in the mail. That is it for today's show, folks. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for getting in touch with us. The signal at cbc.ca for further thoughts. Monday's coming, but, I'll promo Monday for the promo afterwards. Enjoy your weekend if you get one. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate you all. Cheers, folks.